Selling on Amazon is actually a very simple concept, but when you hear about it online through social media or the internet, it's explained in so many different ways and you have no idea what's going on. So I wanted to make this video to be the last guide on what selling on Amazon is. So either when you sell on Amazon or you see other people selling on Amazon, you know exactly what it is, all right? And I'm gonna break it down in a 3-part step-by-step series so that you have a clear picture on every part of the business model, okay? And by the end of this, you're gonna have a really good understanding of what it is, how to do it, and how people are actually making money with the platform, okay? So the first part of the series is making money, okay? Because that is the most important aspect of it. Now, when it comes to making money with the platform, if you have social media, you probably see people who are driving Lamborghinis and are doing really well for themselves, but you don't know if they're selling on Amazon or if they're selling a course or if they're some sort of guru. And then on the other side of things, you have beginners or just normal people who fail or don't have success and think that it's a scam or it just doesn't work at all. So that's the two sides of money with it, right? Really works so well, I'm a millionaire, and it doesn't work at all, I'm a scammer. But it's like, how are people actually doing this process, right? What is this exact process inside of the business, okay? And it's very, very simple. So when you become an Amazon seller, you have your own independent storefront, right? You're your own independent seller with your own independent account, your own independent, Seller Central, catalog, whatever it may be, okay? So we have us as a seller here first. Now, as a seller, you go to buy from an everyday retailer or supplier that anybody can buy from. You don't need a business, an LLC, some sort of tax documents to be able to buy from the supplier. It's the same suppliers that regular customers like you and I go to buy from during the day for medicine or creams or toothpaste, anything like that. So these suppliers could be Walgreens, CVS, PetSmart if it was dog food, anything like that. So we're going to call this a retailer because the sellers are working directly with a retailer to buy these products. Now, like I said, these retailers could be Walgreens, they could be CVS, they could be PetSmart, okay? We'll just call that pet. And all of the sellers are doing are just arbitraging, really just buying for a cheaper cost from one of these retailers and looking at Amazon to see if the numbers make sense, which I'll explain in a second, and then just trying to sell it for a higher price. And it's one of the oldest business models that's ever existed, right? Like if you think about this, for the past hundreds and hundreds of years, retail stores like gas stations or mom and pop shops are doing the same thing, but they're just buying from suppliers in bulk, okay? So anyways, if you kind of put a cap over it, the sellers are doing the same things as regular retail stores, but Amazon sellers are just doing it online. So they're looking to buy for $20. They're trying to find one of these great suppliers who can find this product for $20 and sell it for $40. And boom, after fees and shipping fees and whatever it may be with Amazon, they're looking to make $5 or $6 per item. And then when you do that 10 times a month, 20 times a month, 30 times a month, it gets bigger and bigger of revenue and profit. And that's kind of how you see the great revenue and profit numbers online, okay? But now, you might be asking yourself, how do they actually find these products, right? How do they actually, which products do you buy and how does this work? Because one of the most common questions is with Amazon is, do I have to find a hot winning product, a trend, right? Like this product looks like it's going to do really well because it's up and coming in the market. I see it on TikTok, I see it on Instagram, and people think it's all about finding a trend. And no, maybe that works if you're creating your own brand, right? Which is called private label in Amazon, where you're creating your own brand, just like a regular company, a shoe brand, a clothing brand, an earring brand, jewelry, whatever it may be, and you're working with China and Alibaba. But in reality, that's like 2% of Amazon sellers. That's basically businesses doing business on Amazon. So we're not focused on that. What we're focused on is kind of what we were touching into, is regular sellers, just like you and I, who don't have a business, sign up for a selling account and are looking for price differencing from these companies, okay? And us as sellers, all we're doing is reading the data. So remember how I talked about see if we were spotting a trend and wanna, where's the trend? Is the trend in, creams right now? Is the trend in certain vitamins because they make you grow taller or anything like that? And it's no, we don't look at trends. What you look at as an Amazon seller is just the data, okay? So Amazon sellers are just reading a data, and this data is called Keepa. It's a software that all Amazon sellers use, maybe 99% of sellers. And what sellers are looking at is looking at the demand for the product, competition, and the price, okay? So we'll call it sales, we'll call it S, we'll call it price, and we'll call it competition, other sellers, right? Because remember, there's millions of sellers in the marketplace in every city, every state that are all competing for these same products. Now, when one seller goes to, let's say, a specific supplier like Walgreens, we'll call this seller A, and they go to Walgreens to buy a product, what happens here is there's a good chance that 10, 15, 20, 25 other sellers are also going to Walgreens to try to buy these products, right? And what happens here is the competition increases for this specific product. Now, you might be asking, well, these sellers don't actually own this brand or work with this brand. So how does that work? Do they have some sort of authenticity complaint, some sort of agreement? And 99.99% of the time, the answer is no. Sellers don't have some sort of agreement with these suppliers or these brands. Most brands, or a lot of brands on the marketplace, just allow third-party sellers like you and I to resell their products. Because at the end of the day, they're happy that their products are being sold from a supplier, from Walgreens, from Amazon, wherever it may be. They're just happy that they're getting sales. Now, there are a ton of brands who actually don't like having, Amazon sellers or random people sell their products because they're worried about the integrity of the brand, authenticity, everything like that, okay? So as an Amazon seller, when you're looking at which brands to sell, which products to sell, you have to analyze and make a decision on, is this brand going to allow me to sell this product? Are they not going to allow me to sell this product? And what does the other competition tell you, right? If there's 30 sellers on the listing, chances are you're going to be able to sell that brand. If there's 5 sellers on the listing or 1 seller on the listing, chances are that might be the brand that's selling their product in specific, okay? So when you take it back all the way down to the bottom and we're looking at seller to supplier to Amazon, the seller is reading the data. They're saying, how well does this product sell? 100 times, 200 times, and so on. They're looking at competition. We'll call this comp. And they're saying, can I go on this Amazon listing and get sales? Now, if a listing sells 100 times a month and there's 5 other sellers, you have to analyze and see, well, are each seller priced competitively, right? Is one seller at 20? Is one seller at 25? And is one seller at 30? Because chances are, when you go to buy a product on Amazon and you look at the Amazon listing, whatever it may be, clothing, shoes, whatever it may be that you're going to buy, and you go to hit that buy button. Now, inside that buy button is one of these third-party sellers. A lot of people think it's Amazon, but it's not. It's one of these third-party sellers who are supplying this product. Now, does that seller own the brand CeraVe? Let's just say for this particular product, does that seller own it? No, right? The seller is just buying a product, the CeraVe product from Walgreens and looking to go on Amazon to resell it, right? And now you might be thinking like, well, how do these sellers actually work with these products, these brands? They just jump on the listing, right? All of these sellers are buying and working with the same exact product, right? Like one's not a different size or whatnot. Maybe they're working with different suppliers, right? There could be different suppliers that each seller is buying from. Maybe wherever it may be, but each seller is buying the same product and then going into the Amazon listing and competing. Now, what matters most when they're buying these products to sellers is price. Who's getting it for the cheapest price? And the reason why that's so valuable and important is because that's how you have leverage, right? Because if you're able to drive the price down as a seller, but still be profitable, that's a really good sign. But if the price starts to go down on the Amazon listing from 35 to 30, maybe that is all of your profit in the listing. So Amazon sellers start to not make money as competition increases if they don't have a really good supplier or a really good buy cost, okay? So there's kind of an overview on how sellers are buying these products and then competing on Amazon listings against each other to just resell them. Now, the Amazon listings that have 1,000 sales per month or 2,000 sales per month are great because there's a lot of food for every seller to eat. Everybody's competing for these big sales and everybody's getting an opportunity. even if we're buying from the same supplier or have the same price, all of these sellers are all just sharing, the food on the table, right? But if it was only 100 sales per month and these sellers are trying to compete for this, well, now there's not as much opportunity. Now, of course, it depends on like how well the price is, if it's an $80 product or a $20 product or a $5 product. But most sellers are looking to fight for the product to have the highest, demand and leverage, because that allows them to make more money and sell more units. That's what everybody wants to do, okay? So there's an overview on the buying and selling process of how people are actually making money, okay? Now I want to break down really quickly before we jump into part 2 is ROI and how money actually works with Amazon, okay? So this business is very different than drop shipping or Shopify or any of those other business models that you see, because it is a very common question of what the difference is. Now in drop shipping, you don't own any of your inventory, right? You just have a website and you have products, and once they get sold, you ask China or the supplier to ship the product to the US customer. But with Amazon, we are buying these products. So an Amazon seller might buy $1,000 worth of these products from the supplier. They might go to Walgreens, go to the checkout page, and buy $1,000 worth, right? And let's say the average price of the product was $20, okay? Now, that means this seller has 50 units in stock, okay? And we'll talk about the logistics part of it, where they ship it, package it, send it to Amazon so that they can do all the work for it. But this seller has 50 units in stock. Now, when the seller goes to list his inventory in Amazon to allow other customers to buy it on the marketplace, and let's say this particular item has 1,000 sales per month, the seller is hoping to sell all of his inventory in a month, maybe even 60 days. But if he does do that, right? And let's say the seller lists this product at $40 because it's a good competitive price, and that's what other sellers are listing it for. So he lists his 50 units for $40. And you might be asking as well, is like, well, does this actually happen? Like, why would somebody go buy the product for $40 when they could just go buy it for $20? And people and customers, just like you and I, we pay for the demand and the speed on Amazon because it's a very trusted marketplace. It has so much demand. The refund policy is great. The speed of shipping is great. Everybody pays for that. And also, people just go right to Amazon to find products. They don't go to Walgreens or some other smaller supplier that they never know of. They just go right to Amazon because they trust it. Now, if Amazon had no demand as a marketplace and people didn't shop from there, well, Amazon FBA would not exist. Literally, like there would be no platform for us sellers to be able to sell these products to, right? Because nobody would be going, no traffic to the website to actually buy from, right? But jumping back into our example with the seller, if he sells all 50 units at $40, let's say, for example, we have some Amazon selling fees, which are 15% of the sale price. Amazon takes that no matter what. Then Amazon has an FBA fee. They charge sellers for storing the product and then delivering it to the customer. Let's say, for example, it's $5, could be a little more. And then you have a little bit of other miscellaneous fees like shipping, packaging material, and whatnot. And let's say that's maybe $1 per item, okay? It could be a little bit more, a little bit less, or whatnot. Now, you spent $20 on the product. You spent 15% of the sale price. You have to pay Amazon out, right? Which, quick math, is what? About $6. And then you have $5 in fees. So if we're adding this up here, this is $12 in fees and shipping. And then you also are owning the product for $20, but you're selling it for $40, okay? So you own the product for $32 and you sold it for $40. So that means as a seller, you profit $8 per unit, okay? So every one that you sell, you make $8 after all the fees and whatnot. And this is done all through Amazon's backend. You don't have to pay out Amazon, send them an invoice or anything like that. Amazon automatically processes that and then sends the money to your bank account after what's left over. And what's left over is hopefully $8 more than what you bought the product for. So now in your Amazon balance, you'll have $28 rather than 20, right? Because you invested $20 in the product and you made $8, so now you have $28 in your balance. But now remember, this seller had 50 units of inventory, right? 50 units in stock. And he made $8 for every unit he sold, whether it took 1 week, 1 month, 2 months, whatever it may be. So this seller is going to make $400 in profit after investing $1,000. So after his investment of $1,000, the seller now has $1,400. Okay. And that's a great situation because now you have more money to play with to buy different products, different listings, and to continue to grow your catalog with more and more money and to continue to diversify your inventory. And that's exactly how it is. And the way to continue to do that at a higher scale is to just put more and more money into inventory, buy more products, and have better ROIs or better profit numbers, and the business continues to grow, okay? So again, that's our buying and selling and making money process with Amazon. Now, let's talk about the actual process of how this actually works, because how can this business become fully remote? So I've been doing Amazon FBA for 4 years now and been traveling full-time all across the world while never touching or seeing a product with this business. But how does this actually work, right? Because we have us as a seller, supplier, Amazon, there's a lot of moving parts. How does it get from us to the customer? So here's how it looks. We have our supplier that we buy from. And again, this supplier could be Walgreens, it could be CVS, it could be Walmart, it could be anybody, right? And what we're doing is we're having our supplier ship this product to a prep center. So I'm gonna write this out here for you guys. And a prep center is just a third-party warehouse, right? Like a warehouse that has 10,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet, whatever it may be, that is directly there to package prep products, to put them in bulk in big boxes to send off to Amazon. So these prep centers, which there's thousands of them across the US, are specifically for Amazon sellers. They're not for anything else. They're not distribution companies. They're not packaging companies. They are for Amazon sellers, and they're in every single state, and at this point, probably even every single city. They are everywhere across the US because there's millions and millions of Amazon sellers, and there's a lot of demand for their work, okay? And what they have to do is they have to label these products and package them according to Amazon's requirements. Amazon requires a little baggie in the product. They require, little writing on the bags. They require a little FNSQ label, which makes sure that once that label is scanned, you as the seller can be credited into a balance in your account. Otherwise, they wouldn't know how to credit you and money would be flying everywhere. It would be chaotic. So the prep center does all of that work for you, all right? And now, once the prep center is done packaging all of your items, they take all of your items, let's say it comes in 5 boxes, they take it out of all the boxes and they put it in one big box. So that way you save on the shipping cost by only shipping 1 box in. They then ship the products to Amazon's fulfillment centers. Now, Amazon has over 160 fulfillment centers across the United States, all right? And they have almost thousands at this point across the world. And when Amazon gets your inventory, they scan it in with a little bit of a scanner and they notify you as the seller that, hey, your inventory has arrived. It's going to take us a few days, maybe even a week for it to process. When I say process, that means just really getting put at one corner of the warehouse so that they have it inbound, right? They have it in stock, they have it inbound and ready to get shipped out to the customer. Sometimes what Amazon does is they ship the inventory across a number of different suppliers around the United States. Because you might ask yourself, well, how does Amazon do Prime 1-day shipping if only one seller is in stock in Connecticut, but I as a customer buy from California? Well, what Amazon does is they disperse the inventory across the US to regions that are closer to every single, out west, out east, north, south, wherever it may be. So that way they can put it on the truck in 1 day and get it to the customer in 1 day, right? So now I have all my inventory all across Amazon. And what happens is, just to clear the board a little bit, under the process, my inventory is now live at Amazon. Now on that Amazon listing, I am here as a seller, right? And now I'm also competing with other sellers on this listing. And what I'm doing as a seller is I'm making sure that my price is consistent with the lowest or the most competitive price on the listing, because there's going to be a ton of different prices versus other sellers. I'm making sure that my pricing is consistent. And then I'm also making sure I'm staying in stock, because if I have no stock, customers can't buy my products, right, as an Amazon seller. So once you're staying in stock, you have good pricing, all of a sudden you start to get some sales, because that buy box, that buy button rotates amongst sellers. Seller A, seller B, seller C. It rotates based off an algorithm from Amazon on who gets sales at what point of the day. Now we're at that point, right? So now we're okay. A seller, me or you, we got a sale. Okay, cha-ching, right? We got a sale as a seller. We now have made the money and the customers bought from us and whatnot. So what happens is we do nothing as an Amazon seller. You literally don't do anything outside of wait for the money to process and to go into your balance. What Amazon does is They pick the inventory, they pack it into one of Amazon's box, they put it on a truck. I don't even want to try to draw a truck here, but I'll just call it a truck. One of Amazon's trucks you see everywhere. And they deliver right to the customer's doorstep. And boom, the customer thinks they bought from Amazon.com, which kind of they did, but really they also bought from you as an individual or your business, all right? And now the money goes into your balance after the order gets delivered and processed and whatnot, and you continue to sell your inventory and then do it across more and more inventory. And then you get to the point where you're shipping a lot of boxes to Amazon and whatnot, and the volume gets larger and larger and larger, okay? So there's the process now with selling on Amazon. Now let's go into the last part here, which is part 3. We're gonna talk about growth, because how do people actually do this at a 7-figure or 8-figure level business scale? Because there's a lot of moving parts here in Amazon. And how does this actually work when you continue to grow as a business? So when you start as an Amazon seller, you start in the business model of online arbitrage. We're gonna call this OA. I'm not even gonna write it out because it might be too much. But OA stands for online arbitrage. Remember that arbitrage word where you're just arbitraging the price difference? Buy for 20, sell for 40 on Amazon. That's the goal to do it. Now, this is the initial business model that everybody starts in, because you don't need a business, you don't need experience, you don't need a lot of money, anything very sporadic. You're just basically opening up a selling account, getting some information, some education on how to do it, and then you start, okay? And you're able to grow your business very, very well like this, right? Let's say you have 5 different products you're selling. Each of them have really good ROI, really good profit and whatnot. You put a little bit of money into each product, all right? Now you have you have 5 listings in your catalog. You're investing a little bit of money into each product every month, and let's say that results to you in $5,000 a month in profit, or in revenue. Revenue. Now, average profit margins in Amazon are around 20%, so that might be $1,000 a month in profit, okay? If you're choosing the right products and analyzing the data and whatnot, okay? Now, this is a really good business model. This is a really good way to grow, and you're working on trying to get how many orders can you get through to a supplier, to Walgreens, to CVS. You're trying to get 10 orders, 5 orders, whatever it may be, because you're trying to buy 50 units of inventory, right? You have to place multiple orders to get that inventory into stock. And CVS isn't going to just say, hey, Jay, buy 1 million units from me, right? Sometimes they're going to be a bit more strict. Like they don't want to just sell to resellers, okay? But now, how do we actually get to the point where we're established as a business and we can buy a lot of inventory? And the natural process in Amazon is going from OA all the way to this business model called wholesale. And now, at this level, which you might have seen online before, is working with B2B relationships. So you're no longer buying from these retailers like Walgreens or PetSmart or CVS or Walmart. You're now working with the suppliers of those retailers, okay? So these suppliers who supply gas stations, like let's say this big warehouse supplies gas stations, mom and pop shops, supermarkets, we'll call it. We'll just say stores. We now are also trying to work with this supplier, us as the seller, okay? So we're trying to build our relationship up with this supplier because there's a lot of opportunity. Because what happens with the wholesale process is you are now buying for bulk from these suppliers. So you're buying hundreds of units at a time, if you would like, and you're spending a lot of money, so you're getting discounts. So you're no longer fighting or competing with all of those sellers who are looking at other retailers. You're now in the process of buying a lot more inventory, establishing a relationship, calling them on the phone, sending them an email, getting lunch with them, getting dinner with them, whatever it may be, meeting them in person. And now you're just buying on a consistent basis, month over month, right? So it might be January 1st, you buy enough stock for 60 days, let's say. And 45 days later, because you have to buy inventory and then there's a little bit of a time lag to like ship the inventory to Amazon and your prep center and whatnot. So let's say you call the supplier in 45 days and you say, hey, John, I want another 150 units. And he says, okay, great. I'll send you the invoice. It's going to cost $3,000. See you next month. Hope all is well. And that's what the process looks like with wholesale. You're buying on this consistent basis of these products month over month. And the only big hurdle in wholesale, and the reason why it's very hard to get started in it, and why I recommend always starting with OA, Because if you're just starting as an individual and whatnot, you don't need a business or a license or anything like that. You're just trying to resell these products. But with wholesale, you have to have a lot of money in the business. Capital means money, okay? Because that way you're spending a lot of money every time when you have a relationship with these suppliers, 3,000, 2,000, 10,000, whatever it may be, on continuing to build a relationship with them, which cost a lot of money, and you have to build a real business out of it. But also with the wholesale model, you need an LLC, you need a tax permit, you need, really insurance. You're becoming a real business on Amazon, and this is what people grow into. So when it started as a side hustle with OA and having fun and making a little bit of money, you grow into real business where now you're really just an online retailer. You're an online distributor. Let me call it even for a better word. That's all you're doing. You became a distributor just like these other companies, but now you're just selling B2C directly to customers rather than to businesses, and you're established as a company. And then you continue to grow by have more wholesalers to work with and more products to work with from these wholesalers. And there's nothing much else to it, right? I don't want to confuse you even much more. That's as basic as it gets, right? Buying from retailers or suppliers and reselling the product on Amazon and doing more of what's working when you have more money in the business. So it comes down to more inventory, and we'll call it more money. Okay. And that's all you're doing to grow the Amazon business. Now, of course, there's little specifics in the between of everything with trying to build out the business and the logistics, but that's really it. It's very simple on a surface level, and that's why there's so many sellers out there who are continuing to build businesses, because it's a very easy beginner business model to get going, right? You don't have to have marketing ideas or anything like that. It's a beginner business where anybody can start, and Amazon and these brands are drawing traffic to your products that you own, but you don't own the brand, all right? So there we go. There's kind of an overview of what selling on Amazon is, and to break it down in the simplest way possible. And this would have saved me months and months and thousands of dollars when I got started on Amazon, because I had no idea what I was doing or no idea on how anything worked. So I appreciate you guys for sticking around. If you're still here, please like and subscribe, and to continue to watch these videos. I'm going to keep making them day in and day out for you guys to get your journey started or just get a better understanding of how the platform works. So I'll see you guys for now, and keep enjoying.